Hello and welcome to another episode of Backyard Progression. I'm Bronwyn Kenku, and this should be loading. Unfortunately, it's not. Let me do this. Hello? Why no capture? One moment. I'm upset with that. Hold please. Morning, Andy. I have tech issues. As usual, when I'm trying to get my mornings done. Open with... Why nothing? Like, legitimately, why nothing? Here he is. Yeah, that's doing its thing. Why can't I... Do I have to... No, that's not feasible. I can't be doing that. There we go. Wonderful. So, hello, welcome. I'm Bronwyn Kenko, and we are going to do another backyard progression. Last week, I lost all my audio and couldn't quite get my upload to work correctly. So, we're going to go through this as if I didn't say anything last week, because for all intents and purposes, if you weren't in my Twitch stream, you didn't hear it. Which is kind of a shame, because I feel like I really knocked it out of the park. So, it is very wintry out. I've been watching a lot of 1 Hour, One Life, and it is actively shaping things I want to do. Because the game is so well put together, it fairly accurately represents some of the different things you can do in the wilderness. So, more often, I would like to get that going. I would love to see some of the different things I can do, and spending an hour a day for a couple sessions would feel great. I mean, it's one of those things where when I can do it, it feels like I should, right? Especially when there's cultural relevance to it. So, my frame rate of my GoPro knockoff is really suffering, and it's a shame because I really don't have the funds to replace that right now. I did splurge a little bit and get new video and audio. So my new webcam should be obviously a lot more clear. Has a wider range. You can see a little bit more of the garb I'm wearing. And I think each thing cost me $10 and $20 respectively. I got new headphones as well, so that I can better check my audio levels. But also readjusted my mic, so hopefully everything sounds better. So, the ice forming over creates these really pretty situations here. The drips coming down to create icicles directly into the waterfall, just fantastic. Love that effect. So the log over the creek is actually a problem. So in this moment, the it kind my the thing I used as a bridge got washed down the creek and got wedged under the log. The log proceeded to catch a bunch of debris and flood the area. So, clearly, the log needs to go, and it did. So, certain places have different ice hardness, which is kind of a neat concept that I'm not sure a lot of people are aware of. So, that part right back there was slush. Here you can still see the opening of water. So, this is just barely a film of ice. And in this wee area, a lot more of that. Whereas in more settled spaces, you'll have a harder film that can actually break. So, pursuing this through, we get a lot of different spaces and places to utilize things. I'm carrying a walking stick because there have been a lot of coyotes sighted, and they are generally pretty scaredy. Like, but it is winter, and with um, less food available, it becomes a lot harder. See, here we have ice that's fully formed to the point where I need to put a lot of pressure in to actually break through it. A single hit doesn't actually break it. You can get a lot of things that can go over the ice until they can't. People get trapped in that kind of a scenario where the ice is a little bit thicker, and overall, it makes things trickier because you'll fall into the ice and then not have any solid surface to really hold on to pull yourself out. So you're stuck basically swimming to shore in frozen waters, and you don't have that much time. So, um, I love games where it inspires me to do things outside. And it is unfortunate when games do it poorly, very often. Um, Stardew is interesting in that it does things well and poorly at the same time. Like, everything is very automated in Stardew, which is nice as a player, especially with their limited day cycle and energy cycle. But um, in 1 hour, one life, you don't really have that. And it's very effective to look at things and make them a little bit better each time you come through. It's kind of wild how certain families or households will propagate and end up being ones that you come back to over and over again. But it's tricky when uh, you get into a more advanced civilization like we are currently. So, too often we long for going back to something simpler, to going to like making fire, to building some sort of basic setup, getting everything all put together. People love mastery, and that game gives you very little training and it expects you to learn from your elders, which kind of throws a monkey wrench in progression. But they're hoping that they can teach you enough to keep you alive so that you can have babies to come back through and do more later. And there's so many abandoned settlements because of the different situations that arise. Here's another really good ice falls area. Get some. Anytime you can get some icicles coming down off of sticks and then waterfall underneath, it's fantastic. It just creates such a cool effect as the water sprays out and just adds more and more to the ice. So you get some of that here too. So there is caution here, and again with the walking stick, further vaulting, allowing myself to have a little bit more control. That rock and that branch were both covered in ice, so I couldn't be sure if I was going to have footing or not. That tree got moved. Super happy about that. Still feeling very accomplished and excited about that. So, pushing forward. Let's see, what else? I feel like I did a lot, but I can't remember because when I did a lot, it was not snowy. So it's hard to keep up with the way the season looks. And too often I feel like game devs and folk will make a season and then make it very strictly that season. Whereas now in our global warming world, we are our seasons are kind of wishy-washy. You get a little bit of snow, then a little bit of spring, and a little bit of snow, and some snow in spring as well. And it just kind of like walks back and forth between these different kind of layouts as the temperature rises and falls a little bit more drastically than it should. So, I think I actually step out here to get a, or no, that was last week's video, or the one before this, um, because there was a really good, I'm sorry, my cat wants to come in and say hi. This is Mau Mau. He's a good kitty. He also walks these trails. Okay. And it's really nice to like have animals using these spaces, and it's part of why I love doing it. Having a more active ecosystem rather than the way some of this is. And winter is so good for marking out places that you can see and you can get better at and that need help. To be fair, I also kind of wish I knew my what's it called? Uh, plants that are supposed to be here and ones that aren't. Invasive species. That's so it would be really cool to like actively strip out any invasive species and have this be more natural and be more uh, true to nature as intended. It, initially, I had some views on the way nature does things, and this ice fall is so good. Just all of the different pieces that can catch ice. Oh, so good. So, anyway, moving on from that, my thought is lost. And that's how things go sometimes as the trajectories and things change. It's important to view your goals in different ways in different seasons. As at filming this, it was a holiday. We had halfway through winter. Yeah, here is the space that looks a lot like the terrain in 1 Hour, One Life. Also, it's snowing. That might be what's partially messing with my frame rate. I forgot about that. And it's really interesting the way they do it. But one thing, I have a couple of major complaints because wherever you are, there are no creeks, there are no rivers, there's no consistent source of water unless you're in the Arctic, and then you have ice holes. Very specifically, ice holes. Because the rest of the world is full of the other one, but too often, like, civilizations propped up and like lived by creeks because they are a source of fresh water and sharp stones. Slate is a wonderful sharp stone. It breaks very easily, but is very sharp. You can probably hear me crunching because this is all ice. It takes a lot of effort on this ice, but I am crunching all the way through it with each step. It blows my mind how people and animals can live through the winter. Like, whole civilizations built themselves in places much colder than this, and I couldn't imagine. Did a lot of work over here. There were some downed trees and whatnot. Some of the space back there needed help. So it can be really disorienting being in a general white space. You lose a lot of markers without the ground being seen. And it's kind of funny that it works that way and shows the importance of colors in games when you're trying to do paths. As too often, like, if everything looks the same, you're going to lose those markers. You're not going to know where you are. It's not going to feel real. So it's incredibly hard to make that feel right. Like, I use the creek as a basic marker for a lot of stuff, both personally and for these videos. Following the creek makes a lot of sense for that reason. As if we're just trudging through the woods, you kind of lose these markers. But like when you've got big tree hanging over the creek, with the waterfall here, that goes really well. This was the log in question that is no longer there because that was a project that actually needed a power tool, unfortunately. Like, I could have done it, but it would have taken a while and been kind of messy to do with the axe and saw. Although there is a larger version of the saw that I like. They're called silky saws. I think they're made in Japan. They only cut on the pull, but they are the best damn saw I've ever used. So I have the Silky Longboy, and there is a big one called the Katana, and I would love to have that for a lot of these different projects and whatnot. But it's like over $100, so that's wish listing. That's far off in the future for when things are more productive and I have more funds. So you can see sometimes that the ice can form a little bit more fully next to places that aren't fully formed. It's really fascinating in its own right how the flowing water can only hold it off so much. Yeah, more ice. Okay. Real quick, we'll BRB and get the next one going. In media player, apparently. Excuse me? Of course not. Of course not. And one more try. Okay. Okay. So, this is concerning. Okay. Fixed. Whew. Like, in one of the loads, it had only showed that there was 9 minutes of content when these walks take about 18. So, that was concerning. But it doesn't appear that the frame rate's gotten any better, unfortunately. I may have to tweak some settings in my GoPro because this is not great. It's not probably a great viewing experience. It feels very FMV game. Oh man. Technology. Why you gotta be the barrier for me showing off the nature? Okay. So, still have some ice, but all the same, most of it is gone. And we are working at having a good thaw, not a whole lot of flooding involved. But it'll likely snow again this weekend, so who knows. It can't be good on the plants to have these constant thaws and refreezes. But I suppose the plants in the area should be accustomed to a more hardy setting for that. It's a shame though, because I know the deer have been reaching out and branching out, coming all the way up to the house. It's nice seeing them. I love watching them just hop so effortlessly into the air with their big white tails. Hence the name. But there are a lot of spaces that are just kind of mucky, which leads me to find some tracks and leads me to yeah, it's tricky for sure. I mean, like it's hard to compete with reality, and games are doing a better and better job. If you had taken like child me and showed what graphics look like now, it would be mind-blowing. Like hard to discern from reality almost. Like in comparison. Like there's still a level of uncanny valley in games, but I'm not sure we'll ever get to a point where we can fix that or if we should. Like I know certain people have been messing around with voice AI and being able to just recreate people's voices and things, and it was it's just one of those things how Um, um, time moves onwards. We can figure out different ways to interact with nature, but we're always trying to get closer and closer to what it has. So pictures, we are actively. Oh right, voice AI. That's where I was. It's getting harder and harder to tell what is real and what isn't. And we are constantly striving for recreating reality when we're not good at it. We are. Yeah, I can understand when you can hear a robot say something in your own voice. It probably has a very visceral reaction, like something deep inside saying, no, that can't exist. I won't let it. Because, yeah, it's a lot. And there's so much in that isn't right. It isn't like that. Like, even twins have moderately different voice things to listen for. Like, it's very rare to have something in perfect fidelity repeat back to you. And with some recordings and whatnot, it's fine. There are different bits. I know I have recordings of me singing because I sing during Bardics and whatnot, and I have a lot of folk songs that I know by heart, and it's a nice little thing. But the way people sound to themselves is often different, and that might even be safeguarding this whole concept of things that are too close to real. That uncanny valley even exists means at one point there was a threat that looked a lot like us, but not quite like us. And that's frightening in and of its own right. But we can see that genetic mutations are often fighting for fighting each other for the same space. And that probably was a marker for it. We could blend into their society, but they couldn't blend into ours. And being able to sneak some better technologies, be it sharp sticks or sticks with stones, different kinds of ways they're using things. Being able to use wooden tongs was huge. The survival channel, which I can never remember the name of because I think it's just like something survival, um, has started working on forging iron, and he like isn't even using a kiln anymore for this type of method. He's using just charcoal in a little pit with a blower. It's hand powered, obviously, but it's impressive that he's like getting to the point where he can just melt iron. And I think he's made a knife. It's it's been wild watching because it has that same kind of feel of like you get one project that you get to do in this hour and you get to really focus on it, and it actively pushes your ability to do the next thing. So if you can make bricks and then you have a bunch of bricks, you can make a kiln to make making bricks easier or better or stronger. And then you can have a brick house or the like better shelters to be more rested to do better things. And that little bit of progression just works so well. The reason I don't play the game myself, unfortunately, is my own trauma and being in my own head about letting people down. As there's a lot of good there, and there's a lot of um, wholesome interactions and everything. It's it's very sweet, and it gives people different experiences. Also, trash. Bucket that's been stuck in the ground for who knows how long. So I'm gonna come back there, come back to that point later with a pick and get that out of the ground. So just pop that in my pocket for later, because littering sucks. It's part of leaving a legacy in a negative way. There are certain families who get unfortunate last names because someone early on in the line had thought that was okay. And I know people are really hyped about Hogwarts Legacy or whatever the name is, and like gaslighting themselves to believe that's not giving money to anti-trans, anti-Jewish sentiment, when that's exactly what she said her money is doing and her royalties are doing. Like it's like saying, man, I hate that Hitler guy, but boy does he make a good car, and I'm going to keep buying that car from Hitler directly so he has more money for the war to do. Like it's nuts that people are going so far as to delude themselves in this way. And it's hard. Like it's really hard to see people uh, being so blind. And all I can do is use my presence and inform people. It was really nice to be able to like fix someone's opinion a little bit and be like, hey, no, I understand that Rowling wasn't involved in making this game, but that's not how royalties work. She is absolutely getting money from it. And I believe she's international in her standing. So, fuck that bitch. Back to nature. We are in our own world here. There's so much that we're trying to make and preserve, and I'm really sorry about this frame rate. It is borderline unwatchable, and I hate that for me. But with things getting better and better and cheaper, it's nice to be able to have things that are infinitely better than what would have cost you a lot previously. Yeah, it's one of those situations where it's just a lot. There's a lot going on. And it's truly unfortunate that people can't just let others live their own life. And a little bit of fixing of language has sparked so much debate when it ought not. Like, it's frustrating, and I hope that mankind can evolve past this. But it's tricky for everyone involved. So, nature. So, things I want to do from 1 Hour, One Life. That basic concept of like getting started, showing off what milkweed is and how you would make string from it. Um, Being able to eat burdock, what that looks like, how the roots work there. Um, Getting to some of the different points with clay and making a kiln, and whatnot, because I think that would be fun, and it's a project that I really need to work on more. We have a lot of clay, but it is very hard. Um, and there's probably just some mastery that I'm missing there. But our creeks very much have a lot of clay, so that's a resource I could be utilizing more and better. So that can be fun in its own right. So this is ice that is fully formed over. Like, you can see that it's incredibly hard, and that was something that wasn't that way last week. Even though the rest of this is thawed and like completely come through, there are still little bits of ice, and these can create jams. Like, as the these chunks of ice flow down river, it can create jagged walls of ice that tear through things. And moreover, there's just so much that can happen with that. So it's better to break them up. But remember to use the strong side of your stick, even if it makes it a little bit wet to hold. Uh, there's not too much concern about that here at my place because of all of the different walkways and things. It's just going to hit and break apart and melt for the most part, but in bigger creeks and rivers, I know the ice flows can be a really big deal, especially in the further north and different spaces like that. Engaging with ice is interesting and terrifying in its own right, and I really hope I remember. Yeah, okay. We get a raccoon track. Look at this little guy. Boop. So good. So I love my little critters that are around, all the raccoons and possums and skunks and porcupine, which feels weird to say, but is true. um, they're so reclusive, though. I never see those guys. I know the dogs have found them before, because I have had to fix that situation in its own right. But as you can see here, well, after I take a moment for the waterfall, and this was the thing I was using as a bridge, it kind of lodged itself in there. I had to use the flooding to lift the log that was here to get that out so that it would stop flooding. Um, but then once everything calmed down like it is now, we were able to cut it apart. So that was really helpful, and hopefully it will minimize any kind of flooding that happens through that area again. But I still need to come up with better ways to get the water drainage through here. Here's a plastic bag that is ancient in its own right. Gotta come back for that one as well. And that's why the title of this week's episode is Garbage, because there is a lot of garbage out there and a lot of people who are being garbage. But it's important to remember to just do what you can to throw them away. To let people know that things are unacceptable, that litter is unacceptable, and is dirty from trying to fix that. So just kind of clean that off a little bit before touching the cam. Trying to be responsible owner. So yeah, be sure to pick up some garbage today. Be that in your house or in your friends list. Make it known. Don't go quietly. Um, let people know why they're fucking up, because that's important. Like, ghosting someone is one thing, and if you can't deal with that interaction, that's okay. But if you can, that learning experience is worthwhile, and that having people and things in your life that matter is really important. And respecting yourself most of all, having a nice space to live in and exist in. It can be really hard unprompted to be like, oh yeah, I have a empty soda can on my desk. I should put that away. I have some water bottles that need to go away. That should go. And making that a trip, just getting it out there, cleaning up your space, be it physical or mental, is often a great way to be better to yourself. So thank you all for coming. I appreciate everyone who is here. I'm going to be playing games after, but I have to cut the stream because I tried last week and things just went horribly. Like I had said at the beginning of this video, I was playing around with mic settings and accidentally cut all of my audio from the video, and it took like a full day to process cutting out the rest of me gaming. So I'm going to cut video, go to my ending soon screen, and just have that be self-contained. But if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to follow me on Twitch and come out and hang out, because I appreciate it. I am getting very close to affiliate, but not quite there yet. I'm sure I'll get there in time. But thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day, and be better.